The Buffalo Bills might not have played their cleanest, sharpest football yet, but here's the bottom line. They're 4-0, still undefeated. And more importantly, they've now beaten 3 straight opponents by double digits. Their latest win? A 31-19 takedown of the New Orleans Saints that showed flashes of dominance, stretches of frustration, and a whole lot of the gritty, tough football that might just be this team's new identity in 2025. Because when you step back and really look at it, maybe this is just who the Bills are right now. A team that leaves you wanting more in a moment, but delivers the result you came for. Let's start with the face of the franchise. Josh Allen delivered the kind of performance we've almost come to expect from him. Explosive, dynamic, clutch. He completed 16 of 22 passes for 209 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. Yes, he had an interception, but if there's ever a time to take a risk, it's 3rd and 10 on a deep shot. It was more a great play by the safety than a mistake by Allen. Add in 45 rushing yards and a touchdown on the ground, and Allen finishes with over 250 yards from scrimmage and 3 total touchdowns. But it's not just the numbers, it's the moments. When the Saints trimmed the lead to 21-9 in the 4th quarter, Allen stepped up with one of those trademark drives that only he can deliver. For plays, 60 yards, a 27-yard scramble on 3rd and 5. Then the very next play, a perfectly placed 28-yard touchdown strike to Dalton Kincaid. That's what elite quarterbacks do. That's what Josh Allen does. And speaking of elite, James Cook is quietly building a case as one of the most consistent and productive backs in the league this season. He carried the ball 22 times for 117 yards and a touchdown. Toss in 3 catches for 18 yards, and he ends the day with 135 total yards on 25 touches. And it's not like he broke off a 40 or 50-yard run to inflate those stats. His longest gain was 15. It was just chunk after chunk, first down after first down. Every time the Bills needed steady yardage, Cook delivered. That's 3 straight games with over 100 yards rushing, 4 straight games with at least 100 yards from scrimmage, 4 straight games with a touchdown, 8 games in a row now, going back to last season with a score. He's not just a feature back. He's becoming the heartbeat of the offense. And the way the Bills are leaning on him, with nearly 400 touches projected for the season, shows exactly how vital he's become to their rhythm. Now, let's talk about Khalil Shakir. 5 receptions, 69 yards, and a touchdown that'll end up on the season highlight reel. It was one of those plays where you thought he was down 3 different times, and yet, somehow, he wasn't. He kept his balance, fought through contact, and found the end zone. Pure effort, pure grit. But that wasn't his only big moment. He also hauled in a critical 3rd and 8 reception to keep a drive alive, a drive that ended with Josh Allen bulldozing his way into the end zone. These are the kinds of conversions that win games, and Shakir is proving to be a reliable weapon in those pressure situations. Dalton Kincaid's stat line might look quiet, just 1 catch for 28 yards, but it came at a huge moment and resulted in a touchdown that gave Buffalo a 2-score lead. But what really stood out were his blocks. On Shakir's touchdown play, Kincaid laid not 1, not 2, but 3 different blocks to help spring the score. First, the initial seal that opened the lane, and then 2 more downfield blocks to make sure Shakir had a clear path. That kind of effort, that's championship-caliber unselfishness from your young tight end. He made an impact even when the ball wasn't in his hands. And while we'll get into the offensive struggles later, it's important to give credit where it's due. This unit still put up 31 points. That's production, even with a lull in the 2nd quarter. And during that dry spell, the defense stepped up. Big time. In the 2nd quarter alone, the Saints' drives went punt, field goal, interception. Then, to open the 2nd half, they went 3 and out again. That's 5 straight drives where the defense held firm while the offense was spinning its wheels. That's complementary football. That's a defense bailing out their offense when things aren't clicking. And no play symbolized that better than Cole Bishop's interception. It came at a moment when the Saints were gaining momentum and pushing deep into Bills territory. But instead of letting the drive continue, Bishop, who was lined up on the opposite side of the field, read the trick play perfectly. The Saints tried to get fancy with a Philly special, and Bishop sniffed it out, closed fast, and made a phenomenal interception on a pass intended for the quarterback. That's a playmaker. That's the kind of high IQ, athletic play that flips momentum. And after a few solid but quiet performances to start the year, Bishop finally got his splash moment, and it was massive. Now fast forward to the fourth quarter, when the game was still hanging in the balance. The Saints, trying to claw their way back, found themselves in a fourth down situation. They gave the ball to Alvin Kamara in space, and for a second, it looked like trouble until Tre'Davious White came flying in and made a textbook open field tackle. A few plays earlier, Christian Benford had made a similar play on third down. Two back-to-back tackles from the Bills' corners that shut the door on a critical Saints drive. Situational defense at its finest. And how about Deon Walker? The man continues to flash elite traits on the defensive line. He logged 2 tackles for loss that were just pure dominance, winning one-on-one, blowing up the play in the backfield, and letting the offense know that running to his side was not going to end well. Outside of Joey Bosa, Walker has arguably been Buffalo's most disruptive defensive lineman so far this year. He's still developing, sure, but when he hits hard, and he's hitting more often than not. Special teams deserve a little shine, too. Matt Prater was rock solid. Nailed his only field goal attempt, drilled all 4 extra points, and handled kickoff duties without a hitch. Twice now this season, we've seen opposing kickers fail to land kickoffs in the right spot, giving the Bills the ball at the 40. That hasn't happened with Prater, and it matters. Field position matters. Reliability matters. Prater has quietly been one of the most dependable pieces on this team. And that's the thing with this game. You saw the stars show up, Allen, Cook, even Shakir. You saw the defense make timely plays. You saw role players step up. Was it perfect? Not even close. But that's what makes this team so intriguing right now. They're not at their ceiling. Not even close. But they're still finding ways to win comfortably. And if this is what the Bills look like when they're still trying to find their rhythm, imagine what they'll look like when they hit their stride. For all the highlights and positives from the Bills' win over the Saints, there were definitely moments that left fans scratching their heads. And if there's one thing that stood out beyond the dominance of Josh Allen and James Cook, it's the gaps that still exist in the roster and the questionable decisions being made around depth, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Let's start right at the heart of the matter, running back depth. Because right now, outside of James Cook, the Bills are getting nothing. Zero. Nada. Ray Davis got 1 carry. 1. For 3 yards. Ty Johnson, 1 carry for 0 yards. And that's it. That's all the support your star running back is getting. And this comes after an offseason full of talk about backfield balance, about having a solid trio of backs to rotate, about not overloading Cook and preserving his explosiveness through the long season. What happened to that plan? Because as it stands now, Cook is on pace for well over 370 touches this year. And while he's producing at an elite level, that kind of usage raises legitimate concerns about durability and long-term workload. The fact that Ray Davis, a player who came in with plenty of hype and showed flashes last year, is now completely invisible in the rotation is alarming. And it's not just that he's not producing. He's not even being trusted with more than 1 carry. It almost feels like the coaching staff has lost confidence in him. Ty Johnson was never expected to be a high-usage player, more of a situational piece, but Davis was supposed to be the guy who could step in and handle a full drive when needed. And right now, he's not even an option. That's a problem. Because if anything were to happen to Cook, it's hard to look at the rest of that running back room and feel confident that the Bills could keep the offense rolling. And speaking of frustrating decisions, let's talk about that turnover on downs early in the second half. It was 2nd and 4, a manageable, versatile down where you can go a bunch of different directions. Instead, what do the Bills do? Hand it off to Ray Davis, his one and only touch of the game. Then on 3rd down, it's Ty Johnson running to the right side for no gain. 4th down comes, and it's a shovel pass to Khalil Shakir. And it fails. The Saints take over on downs. What do all of those plays have in common? Josh Allen and James Cook were complete non-factors. Your 2 best players on offense didn't even touch the ball in the most important series of that sequence. That's not just questionable. It's borderline unacceptable. This is the same offense that on the very next drive needed just 4 plays for Allen to drive them 60 yards down the field and into the end zone. So how is it that a 2nd and 4 situation didn't involve him at all? These are the moments where coaching and play calling come into question. You can't have your MVP-level quarterback and your best skill player standing by while you run gimmick plays and test your backup right tackle's ability to pull and hit a critical block. That's not maximizing your personnel. That's overthinking yourself out of points. Now, let's dive into that second quarter, because it was rough. That entire period was a black hole for the Bills offense. They opened it with a Josh Allen interception, a deep shot on 3rd down that got picked off. Then came 2 straight punts, followed by a half-inning possession that went nowhere. The biggest issue? 1st down production. On nearly every drive, they were starting behind the sticks or failing to get positive yardage on 1st down. And field position was a disaster. One drive started at their own 13, another at the 3, another at the 28, and yet another, again, at the 3-yard line. You're not going to score much when you're starting that deep in your own territory, especially if your first play on the drive is a loss or an incompletion. But what made it worse was the lack of rhythm. No tempo, no quick game, no real commitment to anything in particular. Just a disjointed, sluggish stretch of football where it felt like the team was trying to force things instead of just executing. And credit the defense for keeping the game under control during that lull, because if they hadn't, things could have spiraled quickly. Now let's flip it to the defensive side, because while the defense absolutely had some redeeming moments, the run defense in particular was an issue, and a big one. The Saints racked up 189 rushing yards on 34 carries. That's 5.5 yards per attempt. And they did that with a backup right guard and a left guard making his first career start at the position. That's the kind of thing that makes you pause. It's not like the Saints had some elite rushing attack. This was about poor tackling, bad angles, and a defensive front that didn't hold up consistently. Kendre Miller looked explosive, which is something the Bills made him look, not necessarily what he's shown all year. There were way too many runs where the first defender didn't make the play, or the linebackers got caught in traffic, or safeties were too late coming down to help. For all the splash plays the defense had, the inability to get consistent stops on the ground is a concern, especially when you consider the physical teams Buffalo is going to face later this season. That's a problem that needs to be cleaned up fast. And then there was Reed Ferguson, not a name you usually hear much about, because as a long snapper, that's the point. But in this game, he was a problem. 2 penalties, 1 bad snap on an extra point, and he got beat on the play that led to punter Cam Johnston's injury. That's 4 negative plays from your long snapper. 4. In a game where the margins are often razor thin, that's unacceptable. Special teams is supposed to be the steady hand, the unit you don't think about because it just gets the job done. That was not the case in this one. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. Whispers are spreading across the NFL world tonight, and the rumor mill is running wild. Sources suggest that the highly anticipated matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the New Orleans Saints may be canceled. While the league has yet to confirm the reasons behind this shocking turn of events, insiders hint that a combination of logistical hurdles and unexpected team issues could be behind this sudden disruption. Fans across the nation, who have been eagerly counting down the days to witness what many expected to be a thrilling showdown, are left in suspense as speculation dominates social media feeds and sports talk shows alike. Industry insiders suggest that the Bills, fresh off a strong start to the season, could be facing unforeseen challenges within their roster, possibly related to last-minute injuries or internal team conflicts. Meanwhile, whispers around the Saints camp point to travel complications and potential health concerns that might have thrown a wrench into the game scheduling. While these reports are still unverified, the intensity of chatter suggests that something significant is brewing behind closed doors. The implications of a canceled game at this stage of the season are enormous. Betting markets are already responding to the news, with odds makers adjusting lines and futures as fans scramble to understand the impact on playoff standings. Social media platforms are ablaze with speculation, memes, and bold predictions, as supporters of both teams expressed disbelief, frustration, and, in some corners, cautious optimism for a rescheduled clash. NFL officials have remained tight-lipped, issuing only a brief statement that the situation is under review and promising updates as soon as possible. Meanwhile, analysts and former players have flooded sports podcasts with their takes, ranging from conspiracy-laden theories about league politics to practical considerations of players' safety and travel logistics. No matter the cause, one thing is certain. The Bills versus Saints matchup, already one of the most talked-about games of the season, has become the center of an electrifying swirl of rumors, anticipation, and speculation that will dominate NFL conversation for days to come. Fans are urged to stay tuned for official announcements, but in the meantime, the NFL rumor mill is in overdrive, leaving everyone wondering, will we see these two powerhouse teams clash on the field, or has this season's most shocking cancellation just occurred? That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.